The pause to tell. You can't spell loyalty without the L-A-L.
Right, we are back. We are back to the live stream. Welcome back to Laker Musings, where Laker loyalty meets analytical prowess, and where we don't just react to the game, but we break down the deeper forces that are shaping the entire NBA. I'm your host, Jason Muse, aka the Black Muse, and if you're part of the Laker loyalty community, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, drop a comment, and join the debate live in the chat, because your voice shapes the community that we're building. All right, so tonight we have 4 blockbuster segments, so let's get straight into it. Austin Reeves drops 51 points, and this is an interesting development for Austin Reeves because we've seen some of his greatness at times, and it's maximized, it seems, when there are games that he's playing where both LeBron and Luka are out. I think before last night, his career high in the NBA and as a Laker was about 43 or 45 points. Officially, it is now 51 points. The dude can flat out score, and every single year, Austin Reeves gets better, and we're seeing that this year. And that is very encouraging to be shorthanded in the way that we were last night, not only losing Luka Doncic for about a week, but also during the game losing Gabe Vincent. And I actually believe that he's out tonight. More on that later. So Austin Reeves drops 51 points in a much-needed win for the Lakers in terms of this being the easiest part of the season, arguably. The strength of schedule is a lot easier now through the first 15 or 20 games than it will be later on in the season. So congratulations. Shout out to Austin Reeves for his career-high 51 points in the absence of both Luka Doncic and LeBron James. It's very encouraging as a diehard Lakers fan to know that when we have our 2 best scorers out, we got somebody who could pick up the slack. And that embodies that next man up mentality for sure. But it's also, I think, a just outright debunking of a bunch of weird narratives that were developing about Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves basically being an overglorified role player, Austin Reeves not being better than or as good as players like Pods from the Warriors. And so there was some weird debating and comparing, he's not even the best third option in LA. It's all right, I mean, if you want to say so. But I don't think Pods has ever scored 51 points in a game. Nor has the former guard from the Clippers who's now in Miami. I'm talking about Powell. I don't know that Powell has ever scored 51 points in a game, but I know Reeves has. And so, I don't know. I think that the people with the whole Pods is better than Reeves narrative are looking and feeling really dumb right now. Y'all have egg on your face. I just want y'all to know that. And most of them are delusional Warriors fans. But some of them are just people with bad takes. So there you go. But on top of that, I think what made his performance so impressive is that it was in service to a win in a relatively competitive game. So the Lakers defeat the formidable Sacramento Kings last night. Not as good as they've been in previous years, but not too shabby, not terrible. They're definitely a team that was good enough to beat the Lakers last night without Luka and LeBron, and that didn't happen. So I'm very happy about that, and a huge contributor to that not happening was Austin Reeves. I mean, it got to the point last night when I was watching that Austin Reeves was getting the utmost respect from the Kings defense. They were blitzing Reeves. They were double teaming Reeves to get the ball out of his hands because he was diabolical. Reeves has gotten really, really phenomenal at using the pick and roll to get downhill, get into the paint, and he's a high percentage finisher. And he went to the line a lot last night. Now there was some weird thing from Kings fans mostly complaining about Reeves going to the line too much. But if you watch the game, Reeves was getting by people and it was forcing them into desperation, either from help defenders or people who were kind of trying to stay on Reeves but couldn't quite do it to try to stop him from scoring. And he was scoring anyway. He was getting and ones and he was getting fouled. Those fouls were legitimate. He got fouled a lot. So if you don't want somebody to go to the line, don't let them get by you and don't foul them. That's what happened a lot. I can understand if it was something like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does sometimes, or what James Harden got a reputation for doing in the past, where they're really, really good at kind of finessing the rules and causing contact and kind of forcing the whistle. Reeves is good at that too, but I don't think Reeves does it in the kind of forced fake way. It seems like he genuinely gets fouled. And actually, to a certain extent, Reeves has just recently started to get those calls consistently. He should have been getting those calls, by the way. But Reeves has been steadily working on his game, and that's going to definitely be a huge asset to the Lakers, his ability to do that, particularly when we get LeBron and Luka back, because most of the best defenders in the league are going to be keyed in on those two players. And so that's going to open up things for Reeves even more. So Reeves becomes the first Laker role player since Nick Van Exel, if you want to consider him a role player, to score 50-plus points in the modern era. And that's according to Verified Stat. And I think that that's a really interesting stat. Shout out to Austin Reeves. He's really good at attacking off screens. He's really good with the off-ball movement. Not only was Reeves key in terms of taking advantage of the pick and roll, attacking the basket, and him receiving the ball through off-ball movement, but also hitting his teammates when they were moving off-ball as well. So he actually played a nice distributor role, which is one of the reasons why he had almost a 50-point triple-double. He was one assist shy of a 50-point triple-double. I really was like hoping he can get that assist. Almost as much as I was hoping Luka could get that 50th point, but he missed that free throw. He was demonstrating elite efficiency from three in the mid-range last night. I believe he was 6 of 10 from three last night. That was 60% from three last night. So he was phenomenal as a shooter from three and in general last night. And he was a part of a fourth quarter takeover because despite his best efforts at the time, he was right around 43 points before he ended up making his way to 51. The Lakers were down, I think, at some point in the fourth quarter, if memory serves me right. And so they really needed, his Herculean effort all the way to 51 to get that win. And so just a really impressive performance from Austin Reeves. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. And I think the biggest question for Austin Reeves is whenever we have Luka and LeBron, and clearly he's not going to get as many touches and clearly he's not going to get as many shots in terms of being the priority playmaker, how can he still maximize his effectiveness? And one of the ways is moving off the ball. Right. There's this weird narrative being constructed about Austin Reeves that somehow he's redundant with Luka. I guess because they're both white. Like the arguments that I've heard is it's supposed to be something to the effect of Luka needs the ball, Austin Reeves can't function without the ball or needs the ball to be effective. Therefore, there's only one ball, they can't work. I think that is a abysmally basic take and is wrong as hell, mostly because it's obvious that both Reeves and Luka can move fairly well without the ball, but Luka's more effective at doing a lot of the things that Reeves is good at than Reeves. So if you're going to default to anyone being the main distributor or ball handler, it's Luka. I think that's by default. That makes sense. That doesn't eliminate Reeves' effectiveness, though, because Reeves can be a deep threat from three. And if if Luka's getting into the paint and drawing defenders away from Reeves, then that helps Reeves get open either to shoot by himself or to swing it to the next open shooter. And or he can go downhill getting it from Luka. And Luka's really good at getting to the paint and throwing no-look passes all the way to Reeves for wide-open threes. LeBron's not too shabby at it either. So the idea that he can't work with either LeBron or Luka, or especially not both, is an inept take to the extent that it reveals that the person who's giving that take is completely unaware of what his skill set actually is off the ball. Like, he's actually pretty damn effective off the ball. Now, he does have moments where he doesn't perform or shoot well, and in those moments, his effectiveness off the ball is minimized. Fair enough. But he does a lot of other things, too. It is not, and offensively and defensively, quiet as it's kept, particularly when the matchups are not, too lopsided in favor of athletic, taller kind of wings or guards, like an Anthony Edwards or somebody like that. Like Austin Reeves, it's harder for him to hang with somebody like Anthony Edwards or maybe a Jason Tatum when he's fully healthy, or somebody quicker than him like a Kyrie Irving or De'Aaron Fox. Those guards can go right by him, and those wing type players can just shoot over the top of him. And so he's very limited in terms of those matchups specifically. But pair him up against like a Mike Conley or somebody who's a lot easier to guard, and he can do just fine. And not only that, but he actually can help do things like rebound. And he did that amazingly last night. He had double-digit rebounds, which was a part of his triple-double. And the Lakers really needed it, by the way. So Reeves can do a lot of utility things that he doesn't get credit for because people are looking for the oohs and ahs. They want to see people do step-back threes and dunk on people all the time. But all the other parts of the game that you can influence, and some of which do show up on the stat sheet, a lot of times people don't give Reeves as much credit as I think he deserves. So we have Reeves attacking off screens, off-ball movement, elite efficiency from three in the mid-range. He's a high percentage finisher. He took over in the fourth quarter when we didn't really have any other bucket getters that were available last night. And in terms of contextualizing this historically, where does this rank in terms of the greatest non-superstar Laker performances? If we're going to say Reaves doesn't count as a superstar, but he's kind of like a really good role player, maybe like a tier above regular role player in some way, where does this rank? And I think that this is like a key point potentially in terms of a narrative shift for Reaves. Reaves is just a great role player, but a really, really, really great role player. Like, I don't know that Reaves is on a trajectory towards becoming a superstar, but Reaves is such a good role player that past a certain point, it's not really going to matter. Like, that distinction between superstar and role player, or really, really good role player, to a certain extent, we don't really care as long as that person is doing their role consistently and helping us win. Right? From somebody like a Robert Ory to a Lamar Odom to a Meta World Peace to a Derek Fisher, these were really, really solid role players for the Lakers. And they had a, to me, in my mind, particularly amongst Laker faithful, they were like role player plus because they were just really, really good in their roles. They were stars in their roles, right? They weren't the best players on the team. They weren't the number one or number two options on a championship team. But the number 3, 4, 5, and 6 options on the championship team are still valuable. And if you're really, really good at those roles, and I think Austin Reeves has really established himself on this Lakers team as that really, really good third option. Like right now, you could argue that Ayton probably could or should be the third option, if not now, eventually. But if I had to pick somebody, like if you're going to say who are the Lakers' big three, I wouldn't actually go with Ayton at this point. I would go with Reaves. And don't get me wrong, I think Ayton has an opportunity to be an excellent role player on this team. But right now, I think that Reaves would be kind of like that third option, that third star so far. And I love it. I like what I see. Outside of those four names that I've just mentioned, maybe a Rui Hachimura. Now, Rui is limited because Rui is so defensively inept that it actually kind of undermines his status as a role player on the team. Where I would love to see Rui improve is to continue his trajectory on offense, because Rui in the mid-range, going strong to the basket, fast break points, things like that, great. I would love to see Rui be a lot more competent on defense. Stop giving up baseline drives. Stop getting slow to your rotations. Stop closing out and letting guys go by you. Just be more aware, getting loose balls, things like that. I think that he can improve in those areas, and it's not like hopeless. Am I asking him to be an all-world defender? Am I asking him to be the next Kawhi Leonard, prime Kawhi Leonard? No, but I am asking him to stop being a cone and stop being a defensive liability. A lot of the mistakes that he make are mental. Like, there's no excuse for those mistakes. Like, he doesn't have to make those. And so I would love to see him improve in that area. But back to Reaves and this narrative shift. So is Reaves just a great role player or the third star emerging in real time? I think he just made a case for that third star last night. And he's been making the case fairly consistently, actually. But I think that he made the case for that third star over Ayton, over Rui, over anybody else you can name on the Lakers right now. And if hypothetically the Lakers were to make a move where they were to acquire somebody like an Andrew Wiggins and keep Reaves, and so now you have a team that has a roster of at least Wiggins, LeBron, Luka, and Reaves, I think that Reaves, if he continues on this trajectory, would still be that third option, even over somebody like Wiggins. Now, I think the default would go to Reaves because he's been a Laker already. Usually, if there's a little bit of a discrepancy, then the person who's the newest kind of takes a step back. But yeah, you gotta love it when it comes to Reaves. I mean, he's in good company if we're comparing him to people like Nick Van Exel, etc. Okay, so here's some team implications of this. With Luka and LeBron out, and that counts for tonight as well. With Luka and LeBron out, role players are not just surviving, but they're thriving because we have the impactful play of somebody like Austin Reeves, who apparently can take over when he needs to and take on a lot of the role that would otherwise be reserved for Luka and LeBron. And that's very encouraging, particularly during the first part of the season where we really need these early wins and these early games. We really need them. And this is a momentum builder. So what does this mean for the locker room and the confidence and trade rumors and playoff seeding and all that kind of stuff? Well, it bodes well. It's still too early, but it bodes well, because if the Lakers can manage to win games without Luka and LeBron, then presumably when they have those guys back in full effect and the camaraderie and the team chemistry is maximized, particularly going into the playoffs, then you're talking about something. Because because then you have that extra option, or the optionality, as Rob Pelinka likes to say, to go with Reaves in spots in high leverage playoff matchups where teams are keying in on the Lakers' two best players. And so their third best defender is going against Reaves. And if there's a mismatch opportunity that you can exploit to your favor as the Lakers, because Reaves has been that guy who can drop 50 points in any given game if he needs to, then in the playoffs, when we need him to get a bucket, and for whatever reason, Luka's being double teamed, so we got to get the ball out of his hands, and LeBron's getting, locked up, or at least, minimized in terms of his offensive effectiveness, then you have other options like Reaves. And so it's going to be quite the pickle to, if the Lakers are able to maximize their execution, it's going to be quite the pickle to put opposing defenses in, because the pick and roll optionality is going to be there like crazy. Luka is one of the best at it. LeBron is also one of the best at it. Reaves is pretty damn good at it, even when we don't have those two options. And Ayton is one of the best roll men in the league. And so there are the ingredients of an elite offense that other teams are not going to be able to stop in the playoff. So that's a momentum builder, and it bodes well for the Lakers' playoff chances, because we need to go to the finals minimum, and we need to win that shit. That's how we feel as Laker fandom right now. And it's totally possible with this roster. It's totally possible. And we need to maximize every single thing we have in order to make that happen. Now, are there weaknesses on the roster? Of course. I think that anybody who's objective, even if you're a diehard Laker fan, can notice that. But if Reaves is consistently contributing in the ways that we saw him last night, particularly at high leverage moments, I think the Lakers are going to be just fine. But it can't just be Reaves. It's got to be everybody. In terms of trade rumors or rumors around whether Reaves is going to leave or something like that in the offseason, I think that Reaves is doing exactly what I would expect him to do in effectively a contract year, which is to ball out, right? Him having his career high point totals in terms of 51 points in a game in a contract year bodes well for him. It maximizes the likelihood that we're going to have to, there's going to be no justification for a front office headed by Rob Pelinka or anybody else to let Reaves walk for free. That'd be one of the dumbest decisions we could make if Reaves is continuing to ball like this, particularly if he has a monumental impact in the playoff. There's going to be no question about whether we should sign Reaves if that comes to fruition and if he's consistent in this way. So it's one sample, it's one game, but it bodes well in terms of going in that direction. And I'm rooting for Reaves. I want to see Reaves get all the money that he deserves, because he's been playing at a discount and he's been giving us outstanding play at a discount for all of his career until now. Okay. This is actually the beauty of the Lakers culture. Next man up is not a cliche on this team. It's not just something that you say because you have people who are out, right? The Lakers embodied next man up in a fundamental way last night, and they're going to have another opportunity to do it with even less people, because we have more injuries I'm going to get to in a second, tonight versus the Portland Trailblazers. So this is becoming a part of the Lakers' identity. And under the heading of JJ Redick, this bodes well for him too. Right. And I love that the fact that we just signed him in the offseason to a longer deal to establish our confidence in him. I have the utmost confidence in JJ Redick as a coach. I want to see him thrive with this roster and with this team. And I think having Luka under JJ Redick is actually a great combination. Luka is the guy to maximize what we have and what we're building towards. Right. Sometimes absence doesn't reveal weakness. Sometimes it actually reveals strength. And I think that we saw that in last night's game. And so in a couple of segments, I'm going to return to what we're going to, our game tonight. But I just want to leave that right there, because that's going to be implicated in that. All right, so that ends my first segment. Now on to my second segment. So segment number 2. I want to give new updates on the NBA gambling scandal. Shams has dropped some tweets that I think are of interest. All right, so I want to give new updates on the NBA gambling scandal. This is probably going to be a storyline that we're going to follow the threads of throughout the year until we get to a point where it's pretty much settled and it's no longer newsworthy. As long as it continues to be newsworthy, I'm going to continue to cover it. Okay, here's what just happened. Shams Charania reported the NBA has issued a formal directive to all 30 teams. And I'm going to actually read that for you and show that to you. I'm showing it to you now, but I'm going to read it for you in a second. So the statement includes enhanced monitoring of player and staff betting patterns, mandatory reporting of quote-unquote suspicious activity, potential for league-led investigations with independent partners, which is something I had actually mentioned in my last episode. Okay. Here's why this is actually potentially a good thing. And I actually had displayed worry in the last episode, I think with good reason. Hearing this, I think, alleviates a lot of those concerns. This is no longer reactive enforcement. That's a step in the right direction. You can't just be reactive when it comes to these things, because if you're always reacting, you're playing whack-a-mole, you're always chasing the bad or untoward stuff, that's a clear and egregious violation of your policies in your league. You're demonstrating your inability to adequately police or regulate it. So being proactive is a good step. It shows competence, but more importantly, it shows that you're making an effort to stop these things before they happen, not react to them after they happen, and that's key. So this is these are steps in the direction of what's called pre-criminal detection. Okay. And one of the things that it helps maximizes if everybody is aware, not only the owners but the players, that the NBA is closely monitoring any of this stuff. It maximizes what's called a deterring effect. It deters or disincentivizes the people who otherwise might do the dirt from doing the dirt because they know that they're being watched and they're more likely that for that reason to be caught. So this is a step in the right direction. And it doesn't involve something super drastic, which I think would have been very unpopular and very problematic, which is the NBA jumping fully in bed with like the feds or the FBI. Now, we're going to read more about that because something in that direction, I think, is on the table right now, but not quite as dramatic as I was describing it last time. So the NBA is acknowledging the widespread risk, which is good. They're not hiding things. They're acknowledging it, and that actually demonstrates some degree of integrity. Like when you mess up as a league, you don't hide from it and cover your ass and act like there's nothing to see here. You own it, and then you do something to change it, right? And that is commendable that the league is actually doing that, and that's a step in the right direction for restoring confidence in the league and integrity in the league, and therefore integrity in the sport. So they acknowledge the widespread risk, and they acknowledge that not only that it exists, but that it is historic. And the league's tone has shifted from defensive to proactive, as I said before, right? So I want to ask this slightly rhetorically, but if you want to actually answer it, feel free to leave a comment below. Is this about protecting integrity or protecting revenue? If I had to give an answer to that question, I would say it's probably about both. And that's not a bad thing. Because we have a convergence of interests here. We have all of the economic incentives and interests with all of the moral ones, and they're in alignment. And the reason why that's a good thing is because what that does is that doubles up on the incentive. So the power of the incentive now is doubly strong because they're going in the same direction as opposed to clashing and causing a conflict of interest. So I like it. And I think that the monetary incentive tends, sadly, but I think this is true, tends to be a stronger, more powerful motivator for actors in profitable organizations like the NBA. But when it's in alignment with the moral ones, then you get a maximal synergy of an incentive structure. And that's very powerful because what that means is that it's more likely to happen the way it should happen anyway. So I like it. All right, so let's get into the details here. I want to read this. It's being demonstrated here. This is by Shams. It says the NBA's memo to teams on Monday obtained by ESPN. I'm going to read this for you. Given the spread of legal betting to the majority of the U.S. states, the recurrence of integrity issues across sports, and the emergence of novel betting formats and markets, this is an opportune time to carefully reassess how sports betting should be regulated and how sports leagues can best protect themselves, their players, and their fans. While the unusual betting on Terry Rozier's unders in March 2023 game was detected in real time because the bets were placed legally, we believe there's more that can be done from a legal regulatory perspective to protect the integrity of the NBA and our affiliated leagues. So they're recognizing the integrity piece. They're engaging in a kind of damage control, but in a way that owns up to the flaw. So step in the right direction, they get some kudos. Now, let me continue reading before I give my take. Okay, in particular, proposition bets on individual player performance involve heightened integrity concerns and require additional scrutiny. We have also begun a process of reviewing league policies regarding injury reporting, training and education of all NBA personnel, and safety measures for NBA players. Okay, we have also begun a process of reviewing league policies regarding injury reporting, the training and education of all NBA personnel, and safety measures for NBA players. With sports betting now occupying such a significant part of the current sports landscape, every effort must be made to ensure that players, coaches, and other NBA personnel are fully aware of the dire risks that gambling can impose upon their careers and livelihoods, that our injury disclosure rules are appropriate, and that players are protected from harassment from bettors. Last paragraph. We also are exploring ways to enhance our existing internal and external integrity monitoring programs to better utilize AI and other tools to synthesize all available data from betting operators, social media, and other sources to identify betting activity of concern. So, all in all, I think that this is a step in the right direction. And I was actually growing way more concerned. Last episode, I was voicing a lot of concern. This actually helps mitigate those concerns to a large degree. There's still the open question, though, of to what extent they're going to actually execute or deliver on the things that they're trying to deliver on. But it's a step in the right direction. So, to reiterate why this is good, this is no longer reactive enforcement. This is pre-criminal detection. This is being proactive and stopping the bad stuff from happening in the first place, as opposed to just constantly reacting to it happening. The NBA is acknowledging the widespread risk and acknowledging that that widespread risk is itself historic. The league's tone has shifted from defensive to proactive. And to reiterate the question I asked earlier, is this about protecting integrity or protecting revenue? Tell me what you think in the comments below. So the directive has some key elements that I really want to stamp for us. One is it has proposed mandatory disclosure of relationships with gambling entities. So this is something that they're proposing. There is open questions about to what extent and how they're going to actually execute it. It's a good idea. Mandatory disclosure of relationships with gambling entities. You got to disclose all of that stuff. Mandatory disclosures are great for transparency. The other thing is expansion of integrity units, AI-driven bet monitoring systems, league-wide surveillance. So they're going to be monitoring it, and that's also good. It's a little invasive and intrusive, I guess, and there may be some privacy concerns, but at the end of the day, they got to be able to police it. They got to be able to watch it. They got to be able to demonstrate that they're watching you when it comes to this stuff. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and it maximizes the deterring effect. So the NBA is positioning itself to act before the next scandal breaks, and that's a good thing, because the goal should be to prevent the next scandal or minimize the widespread element of the scandal as it stands right now. You can't have every time you multiply the amount of players who are involved in this kind of activity, it maximizes how bad this is, and it maximizes the fallout for the league. So these are steps in the right direction. But the question remains, can a league regulate itself when it profits from the very betting markets it claims to police? The NBA benefits monetarily from continuing to profit from the very betting markets and activity that implicate its players and create perverse incentives, therefore, for the players to do things that the league is explicitly prohibiting. But that fundamental incentive structure is not eliminated because the league is still in bed with the gaming industry. And so that creates perverse incentives for members of the gaming industry to find ways around whatever new regulations that the NBA creates. And round and around we go in a cycle. So we can't be naive about this. Just because the NBA says we're going to stop it doesn't mean they're going to actually be able to stop it. People who are incentivized heavily to do criminal activity in this way are still incentivized for all the same reasons to come up with more sophisticated things. I mean, I went over how sophisticated it was last time. I mean, X-ray devices that can read cards that are face down, hidden cameras and chip dispensers, pre-marked cards, and like contact lenses that enable you to see those pre-marked cards. I mean, this is like 007 spy shit that they were pulling off to try to game people, bro. And so when you have that level of sophistication and dedication to criminality, like, it'd be naive to be like, nah, the league's got it. So it's an open question whether they'll be able to execute on any of these things. But what I think has calmed me down a little bit is that they're being proactive, and that's a good start. But to reiterate, it profits from those very same betting markets that it's policing. That core fundamental conflict of interest is the source of all of this. And as long as that's there, you will always have this moral hazard that you'll have to deal with. There are ways that we can do it by minimizing the cheating and the untoward stuff. But it can get out of hand. I mean, look at Wall Street. Wall Street is heavily regulated, but a lot of criminality happens on Wall Street. I think that's obvious. And at certain points, it's gotten so bad that the entire global economy was at stake, and governments had to bail out greedy corporations who were willing to hold our entire global economy hostage to maximize profits for them and their shareholders. I'm a millennial. I'm jaded by that kind of stuff. And many people who lived through that weird era are. jaded by that kind of stuff. So that's just an example kind of in the economic domain writ large of how we mitigate moral hazard. And sometimes we don't do it well because it seems like the next economic crisis is always around the corner because we just keep repeating the insanity. Something like that might end up being systematized in terms of navigating the moral hazard of sports betting in professional sports leagues. Okay, so that brings me actually smoothly into my third segment, which I actually want to talk about that more directly. I want to talk about the moral hazard of sports betting across all major professional leagues, not just the NBA. So I'm expanding now, not just from Laker fandom, not just from the NBA news, but all of pro sports. I want to take that on because I actually think this is a profound thing. So I want to be clear about the scope. It's applicable to the NBA, but we're not just talking about the NBA anymore. So as we know, just to get some facts, the NBA is not alone when it comes to this kind of crisis. Almost all professional sports leagues, particularly when it comes to men, but not exclusively men, have gotten in bed with the gaming industry because there's a synergy there. There's a strong, powerful economic incentive. Both sides make money by having this partnership, these strange bedfellow. The NFL, for example, over 13 players suspended in the last 3 seasons for gambling violations. I'm going to repeat that. In the NFL, over 13 players were suspended in the last 3 seasons for gambling violations. My team, and this is why I strategically wore this, I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a Raiders shirt. I'm a Raiders fan as well as a Lakers fan. By the way, I wanted to wear something Lakers, so I got this chain on right now. But my favorite NFL team, the Raiders, one of the controversies that implicated my team when we first made the move from Oakland down to Vegas was, you're going to be in the heart of the gaming industry. Isn't there a conflict of interest there? And they were on to something. They were right about that. And for the longest time, a lot of pro sports teams wouldn't move to Las Vegas because it was seen as maximizing the thing that they were trying to regulate against and the fallout of that. So my sports fandom has been implicated in a very unique way with a franchise that literally moved to Las Vegas, which is like the biggest part of their economy is the hotel industry and the gaming industry, which are basically kind of coextensive to the most part. I mean, almost every major hotel also has a casino in Vegas. So a lot of revenue comes from the hospitality industry and the gaming industry being synergized. I mean, in Las Vegas, they put slot machines in the airport. I kid you not. Anybody who's ever visited Vegas knows this. They have slot machines in the airport. When you wait for your plane, you can lose more money on your way out of Vegas. Or if you're sitting in Vegas, to stop or whatever, you can lose money in Vegas in the airport while you have a layover and then take your ass wherever you want to go. In Major League Baseball, in the MLB, you have the stories of Pete Rose, Shohei Ohtani, the interpreter scandal, and that implicates Dodger Nation, and then the current integrity monitoring expansion. In the WNBA, the league now officially partnered with FanDuel, DraftKings, and Caesars. I mean, as the WNBA continues to grow into this awesome product that we know it can become, despite all of the haters pretending like it's just a league full of lesbians trying to do what the men do, that's the slander that we have to deal with as sports fans, people who people who have the love for the game no matter what the gender of the people playing it are, like me, don't care about shit like that. And by the way, the dildo terrorists who are throwing really bright green dildos on the courts, like both middle fingers to y'all, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to get sidetracked by that. The WNBA is now fully partnered with FanDuel, DraftKings, and Caesars, and it actually has implications for their developing profitability. This past season that just ended, I think, was the first year that the WNBA made a profit, and they made a pretty damn significant profit, and that profit's just going to grow. I mean, they just got a major TV deal over the next 11 years. They're going to make, $200 billion or something like that? So it's growing in popularity. You love to see it. Anybody who's ever coached women's basketball, anybody who has daughters or girl dads that have their daughters participate in any of these sports, but in particular basketball, anybody who's taken part in how the women's NCAA has taken off and how all of these women are becoming superstars in a way that has never before been seen in this lane of human endeavor, you love to see it. You love to see the league grow into everything that it can become. But part of them becoming profitable is making the same kinds of economic decisions as the NBA is making. And part of that is getting in bed with the gaming industry. With the MLS and the NHL, they also have partnerships and player investigations under wraps. And even in the NCAA, growing scandals affect tournament outcomes. And this is post the NIL, where now players can get paid, which they should have been able to get paid for a while, but we're rectifying that. We're making steps towards justice on that. But there are perverse incentives. So this is not just an NBA-specific phenomenon. This is a phenomenon that implicates every professional sports league, period. So here's the moral hazard analysis that I want to give. Leagues profit directly from betting partnerships. Broadcasters promote live odds during games. Players, staff, and even referees are immersed in a gambling-saturated environment and culture. It's everywhere. Even commentators who are in my lane on YouTube can get inordinate amounts of dollars from DraftKings or whatever by putting them into their segments. And if they ever offered it to us, as we're just now starting and growing with Laker Loyalty, you better believe we would take that money. Not because we don't love the game or we're trying to not have integrity, but because the economic incentive is powerful. Why would I turn down, as a person who's on a teacher's salary right now, why would I turn down getting $100,000 or $80,000 from DraftKings by mentioning them a couple of times in my podcast streams? Like, you couldn't use that money to support yourself? But at the same time, I have enough integrity to recognize that there are conflicts of interest that arise. More so for the NBA players directly. I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday. Would I be a hypocrite in terms of, like, even my take right now, speaking out against this? Really, what I'm doing is I'm giving an analysis of it. But to a certain extent, I'm advocating that the NBA take measures to restore integrity and to enforce their rules accordingly. Would I be a hypocrite if I took money from DraftKings in the very podcast episode in which I gave this take? I actually was thinking about that long and hard yesterday. And I'm not sure I have the answer to that question, to be honest. It's actually kind of a complicated situation. Maybe I am a hypocrite. Maybe I'm just as much for sale as anybody else. Maybe those economic incentives can corrupt me just as much as they can anybody else. I don't know. I haven't thought about it thoroughly yet. And I'll probably come back to the podcast and give a more thorough analysis when I feel like I'm ready. But I just wanted to be transparent about where my head is at. Like, I'm not sure, actually, what the answer to that question is. So the line between fan engagement on the one hand and game manipulation on the other is blurring, and that's a problem for these sports leagues. And I've been over it before, but just to summarize it again, you got a lot of fans who love the game. And part of the integrity that's in question is the game a domain of fair competition like it is advertised? We don't want scripted reality TV nonsense. We don't want WWE, basketball, football, soccer, or women's basketball, or hockey style. We don't want that. We want real, authentic, genuine competition between the greats in all of these domains. That's what we want. That's what these leagues are advertising. And so they had better be giving us what they're advertising. But if players are throwing games that are predicated on fairness in order to make a quick buck elsewhere, because there's this whole gaming industry that has infiltrated the sport or the sport environment, the pro sport environment, that undermines what it is that they're selling us, and it undermines what it is that we actually are invested in emotionally, culturally, and even financially, because we are consumers of the content. We buy the sports league passes, we buy the jersey, we fly ourselves out to games. We pay for subscriptions to whatever that gives us access to the games and the streams. We create content around all of the fandom. If there were no NBA, there would be no Lakers. And if there were no Lakers, there would be no Laker Loyalty podcast. You cannot take billions from sports books if you're the NBA, feed live gambling ads to fans, and then act surprised when corruption happens. It should be no surprise because the perverse incentives are obvious. This is the predictable byproduct of a system where competitive integrity and gambling revenue are directly intertwined. And what's at stake, again, to reiterate, like I've said in previous podcast episodes, if fans believe outcomes are manipulated, this collapses trust. And if trust collapses, then the business model collapses because trust is implicated in demand. So the economic consequences are obvious. If people don't trust that they're actually getting the product that they want, they'll not demand it anymore. They won't invest in it in the various ways that we invest, emotionally, culturally, or financially. No more buying jerseys. No more paying for NBA Sports Pass. No more attending games. And then all of the other things that are adjacent to it. No more betting on the games because people aren't really interested and people aren't participating in that economy anymore. No more watching it on TV and driving up the ratings for that, etc. Or at least you'll get a collapsing of it or a minimization of it. I don't think it'll ever disappear entirely, but it can be greatly reduced. So this forces leagues to choose integrity or revenue, or at least there's a dilemma there, integrity versus revenue. But the leagues can't survive without both. They need both. You can have the most integrity-driven league, NBA, NFL, it doesn't matter. You can have one that just epitomizes integrity, but if they ain't making money, they're doomed. They're not going to survive. They got to pay the bills. You can have the most profitable league imaginable. They're making money hand over fist, making all kind of deals with all kind of industries. The tech industry with the AI stuff, the gaming industry with the betting stuff, and then a synergy of all. They got all kind of apps that you can download and all kind of AI systems that can help you like analyze who to bet for and why and all this kind of stuff. They got VR stuff where you can watch the game as though you're there even though you're not there. All of that stuff is developing. They're making money hand over fist, right? But if fundamentally at the end of the day they're going to give you a fraudulent product and everybody knows it, it's going to collapse demand, and it's going to ruin the economic drive to develop all of these things. Because at the end of the day, you need to maximize demand so you can maximize profit. If you take away a lot of the demand, you don't maximize profit. You don't make as much money because a lot of people are not going to invest in all the ways that they invest. So this is a dilemma. And what I submit to you is that you can have both, but you got to be able to mitigate the trickiness of it because they are in conflict with each other in various ways. And how sustainable is the managing of that intrinsic kind of dilemma? So that's the philosophical angle here. So I ask you guys, and you can comment down below if you want to, are we watching sports or are we betting on scripted entertainment? Leave a comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts. All right, that brings me to my fourth and final segment of the day, and that is tonight's game, Lakers versus Portland. Lakers are taking on the Trailblazers, I believe, on the road. I think they're going to have several road games. I think they play 4 times in the next 7 days, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the second night of a back-to-back. So they're going to play the Portland Trailblazers. So I want to give you guys a little breakdown of like what the Lakers are going to encounter, and I want to tell you some updates on who we know is out. We know for a fact Luka's out because Luka has been declared out for at least a week. It may be longer. LeBron is questionable, but it doesn't look like he's going to be. It looks like he's going to be out throughout the first 15 games or so. It says groin management. I actually think that might be incorrect because last I heard, he was reported he has sciatica, and so I don't know why groin management is there. Maybe just. Does sciatica even implicate the groin? I don't know. I'll have to fact check that, but I know that he has sciatica, and that was like one of the biggest reasons why he was out. All right, injury report. Monday's game is the second game of a back-to-back for both the Trailblazers and the Lakers. So both the Lakers and the Trailblazers are going to have a back-to-back game tonight. Neither team has released their injury report so far. So Abdija led the Blazers once again to 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists in Sunday night's loss to the Clippers. He has now scored 20 or more points in a career-best 8 consecutive games, dating back to last season. So he's on a hot streak right now. And in 3 matchups against the Lakers last season, he averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists, with his highest scoring performance being 28 points on February 20th of last year. Okay? Here's what I'm expecting. The Lakers are about to be shorthanded. I can tell you for a fact that the Lakers are not going to have everybody. I know they're not going to have Luka. I know they're not going to have LeBron. I am assuming they're not going to have Gabe Vincent because Gabe Vincent reportedly had a boot. He had twisted his ankle really, really bad. And they very well may not have Marcus Smart either because Marcus Smart kind of left the game too. So we might lose Marcus Smart tonight as well. It seems like Austin Reeves is going to play. It seems like Jake LaRavia is ready to play. It seems like Vando's going to be ready to play. It seems like Ayton's going to be ready to play. And then we're going to have a bunch of dudes deep in our bench. We're going to have a bunch of two-way guys. Bronny James is probably going to get minutes today, not in garbage time, and Dalton Connect. So, we went from next man up to last men standing real fast. Lakers got bit by the injury bug, and that was actually one of the questions I had for this season, by the way, because that implicates our ability to have success. But a lot of these injuries are kind of minor injuries, and so I don't know that our players are going to be sidelined too long. There's also Jackson Hayes, who's been out. He might come back tonight, but he might not. I don't know if he will, but I think he would help us. Otherwise, we're going to be running out Coloco and stuff. He's going to get, a bunch of minutes. And I think that he is not ideal, even versus Portland. And Portland is coming off, a tough loss against the Clippers, and they're going to be looking to beat LA while we don't have full strength. They're a young, scrappy team. Okay. So I wanted to give a little bit of a breakdown of what I'm expecting and what the Lakers need to do to execute as well. Keys to victory. Control the pace early. The Lakers need to control the pace. They need to avoid fatigue by not allowing teams to take advantage of one of their weaknesses, which is their transition defense. The Lakers do not get up and down the floor as nimbly as they should be able to. And the scouting report of the Lakers is, even on a made basket, get the ball out of bounds and go. They will give up buckets. And it's sad and it's frustrating to watch, but it's 100% true. That is an accurate scouting report. And so this team is able to take advantage of the Lakers in precisely that way. Lakers need to make sure that don't happen. So they need to control the pace early. They need to avoid fatigue by running up and down the court all the time, particularly in the fourth quarter where that gets maximized. And then their offensive spacing is going to be critical. You got Reaves, Rui, who must hit catch and shoot looks from three. That's a must. So Reaves, Laravia, and Rui, and then anybody else that can do it too. Vando's been taking his threes with confidence, but he hasn't been making them. If he can make them tonight, that'll be a big help as well. If Marcus Smart plays, same with him. So they need to hit those catch and shoot looks. And then in general, offensively, they need to maximize on the pick and roll from Reaves to Ayton. And then Ayton needs to be really gung-ho about getting second chance points and taking advantage of his height advantage in the paint. Like, Ayton needs to dominate. We need to see dominating tonight if we're going to win. Defensively, the focus is the Lakers need to contain Scoot Henderson, and particularly Scoot Henderson's ability to penetrate in the lane and either kick it to open shooters or get a bucket and draw fouls. And DeAndre Ayton needs to, on the offensive glass, maximize on second chance points for the Lakers, but he also needs to defensively be a rim protector and by getting rebounds, prevent Portland getting second chance points. So these are some keys to victory. These are like the biggest areas the Lakers need to focus on. And because the Lakers are going to be so short-handed, our ability to execute this is implicated by this. I think the Blazers are the favorites as it stands right now, last I checked. So the predicted starters for today, and this is a guess. This is not something that's been announced. Is going to be Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, DeAndre Ayton, and probably Laravia. But if Marcus Smart is available, he might start. That would be my guess if I had to guess right now. And there's just a lot of unknowns. We don't even know who's going to be available. If I knew who was available, I actually would be able to make a better guess. So this is a character game for the Lakers. This is where we show how deep that next man up mentality goes. Are things going to fall apart in terms of the stuff that we know how to do because our best players aren't in the game? Are the Lakers just going to collapse and fold and then give up when it gets hard against the Trailblazers? Or are they going to show some character and actually eke out a win, despite the fact that they don't have all of their best players, just like they did last night? And it's going to be harder on the second night of a back-to-back with a team that can run and exploit one of the Lakers' biggest weaknesses. So I'm going to be watching to see, among other things, are we going to get another 40-plus performance by Austin Reeves tonight? Is Rui going to step up and give us even more points than last time? Is Ayton going to step up? How's our defense going to look when we don't have our best players and we have a lot of two-way guys and G League guys coming in the game? Is Dalton Connect going to step up? I'm going to be watching that. And it's either going to be a really, really frustrating and disappointing night, or it's going to be something that's worth celebrating just like last night. All right, so that ends my fourth and final segment. And so, as always, thank you for watching. This has been Laker Musings, where Laker loyalty meets analytical prowess. If you got value from this episode, do your part for the community that we're building. Like this video right now. Subscribe to the channel right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let the debates light up our timelines. We want to hear your voices. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your takes. I'm Jason Muse, a.k.a. the Black Muse. Stay loyal to the soil. And as always, Mamba mentality, LA till I die. Peace.